when you approach something consistently by saying, I don't like this, I don't like to do this, like blah, 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 you're always going to miss the joys that you could find within that activity simply because of your attitude going in. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Thick Thighs Save Lives podcast. I'm Kelsey.
And I'm Rachel, and Kelsey's trying desperately to make up for my crankiness. She's going to start with, hello, everyone. You think that's going to do it?
This is what I do.
Do you think that's going to do it?
I feel like it did it.
Oh, look
I
at
feel like it
you.
did. I feel like
You're right.
you approach it with the right tone and attitude, and you just can switch it in the right direction.
I felt it in that hello. I felt it. It was all of you hit every octave that could be hit on the musical scale in that hello. So, you know.
But also, I'd like to create space for you to be cranky if you want to be cranky, because that's okay too.
Yeah, no, that doesn't usually help me. I'm just keep doing your hellos and
Okay. We
yeah.
all just bring what we can bring. I was saying this to someone the other day who really didn't like that response of like everyone is just going to be themselves. And I just want to remind everyone, you're just going to be yourself. Not like it's amazing. We're all different. We all bring something different to the table, and all of it is awesome. And just because
Not all of it.
all of it's awesome. It's awesome. It has a space. And when people bring something different and you get frustrated with them for not being exactly like you, just remember, you don't want them to be exactly like you.
God, if I meet someone who is like has any similarities to me, like personality wise, I'm immediately like subconsciously, I don't like this person. I don't know why. I don't know what it is. I can't put my finger on it, but I don't. No, I don't like this person. And then it takes me a while to realize, like, oh, it's because
It's your demons.
we're similar. Okay,
You're
guys,
dating your demons.
I can't. Yeah. So very exciting news, which is that TTSL has a new running cycle coming up. And I love a good fall run, crunching the
Oh,
leaves underneath your feet, feeling that cool air, smelling the smells of fall. How is that for imagery?
I really liked it. I blacked out because I was in it. I was on a run just then. So I was like, honestly, I don't really like to run, and that just made me want to run.
Well, good. You gotta kind of sell running because it's either something that people are like, yes, love it, here for it. It's my euphoria, it's my stress reliever, or people are like, only if someone's chasing me.
Mm-hmm.
So you're kind of either in one camp or the other. But one of the great things about just like fitness and goal setting and just everything that goes along with self improvement is that never, under any circumstances, does anybody expect you to be good at any of these things. You do not have to be good to do them. You don't have to be good to start them. And genuinely, they don't even have to be your favorite thing. You can, in fact, work on something that is not necessarily your favorite thing for the purpose of being more well-rounded, doing hard shit. And like, yeah, is it going to be something that is, you're going to want to stop everything? I'm going to be a runner full time. I'm going for the pro, like maybe not, but getting some work in on something that, previously you haven't necessarily found your groove is a good practice, I think.
Oh, yeah, it's a great practice. I also think that just a reminder, even if you've been doing something for years, you never have to be good at it. It's not just for starters, like you never have to be good at something that you just enjoy doing. I also think that when it comes to running, okay, I get it. We all have the funny memes about like hating running and like blah, blah, blah. But when you approach something consistently by saying, I don't like this, I don't like to do this, like blah, 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 you're always going to miss the joys that you could find within that activity simply because of your attitude going in. Because there are parts of it that you really could enjoy. Like you could enjoy the parts of like having some physical activity that is outside and getting to see some like new places around if you're not running on a track. Like enjoying a nighttime run. Sometimes, like I go to a track night sometimes, and I specifically get there before the sun sets because I want to make sure I get the like pink time that this guy is offering during the summer. And those are just like the little joys that I'll find in that activity that you are definitely going to miss if you say your laundry list of things that you hate about that activity.
That's true. I mean, that's a good way to approach basically anything.
That's true.
But yeah, it certainly works for running, and just go back to that fall crunching imagery. I mean, it sounds enjoyable. I even want to, and I'm a little bit of a what do they say? Turtle running through peanut butter.
Yeah, turtle
I'm a,
running through a field of peanut butter.
I really yeah, I'm a trudger. I'm a
Yeah,
trudger.
yeah.
But um one of the great things about this running cycle is that we are not only going to address things like, your distance and your stamina and your speed, but we're also going to address your running form, which I think a lot of it's kind of underrated, where a lot of people are just like, you run, like running's running. And and they don't treat it the same as, like, say, a deadlift, right? Where there's like, proper form and proper technique, and it needs to be practiced. It's kind of one of those things that's so easily accessible to everyone that it's just like you just get out and you run. But I can't stress enough the importance of, the way that you strike the ground, the way that you stride, the little kind of technique work that goes into running, how much it can improve your efficiency, your speed, and just in general, your comfort with running, because technique matters when it comes to, injuries and longevity in being able to do the thing. So just like it's important to deadlift with good form, it's important to run with good form too. And so that's why we have a lot of technique work in the cycle. If you feel like, why I trudge, my strides are so short, like I'm constantly like toe running, or I'm constantly heel striking, or any of these things, we've got some tools to help you address it.
I love that you related running to deadlift because I think everyone can wrap their head around the fact that like you pick things off of the ground, you pick things up, like blah 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 is a very functional movement. And I think we can wrap our heads around the fact that running is obviously very functional, but how we translate that into everyday life is very important. So like you're walking every time like you get up and go somewhere, unless you're crawling around, like you're walking. And we never really have a purposeful time where we look to improve like our posture, our strike, like how we're standing, some of those things that are very important, and like have the time to repetitively practice that. And it's one of those opportunities to kind of think about your running form, think about the fact that like you don't want your knees caving in all the time, like lifting your feet off of the ground and working on the posture that is going to translate into every other aspect of your life. Which I think is a really important and cool part about working on running. But I also want to say, guys, in all of the cycles that happen, there it's to be well rounded, we gotta put in, like it's not just I'm just a runner, I only do running, I'm just lifting, I only do lifting. Like all of these cycles are just super important to being like a well-rounded human, and honestly keeping you interested in having health and fitness a part of your life and trying different different modalities when it comes to fitness is super important.
Yeah, I can't stress enough with this and every cycle that just doing the thing that the cycle is focused on, say, like in this one, just having a cycle that's going to be running and saying all you're going to do is run. We're just going to do different intervals of running, and sometimes you're going to go short and sometimes you're going to go long. And I cannot stress enough how that does not promote well-rounded fitness, and how much honestly your running is suffering from a lack of strength training. And
Mm.
so what we do is never one-sided when it comes to programming for TTSL. It's always going to be all encompassing, with the main goals of keeping you injury free, decreasing and preventing muscle imbalances, and improving your overall performance. And this cycle is no different. So when it comes to running, there's some very important work that you need to be doing off pavement or off the treadmill that is going to massively help your running overall. And so that is one of the things that I think that we can introduce this in this cycle, because that's for beginners or advanced runners. So if you've been running, you're a marathon runner, you're a half marathon runner, you consider yourself a runner. This cycle is for you because this is going to be the strength and accessory work that you need to get to the next level. If you are a beginner and you're a trudger and you're a turtle through peanut butter, and you're kind of like, I'm a couch to 5K kind of person. Like my goal is, I've not run in a while, or I've not run at all. And I would like to be able to, run a 5K continuously or in a certain amount of time. This is great for you as well, because starting something like that without the backdrop of strength and accessory work is going to lead immediately to injury. So that road is going to be over before it starts, because you got to make sure that your body is prepared to do the thing that you're going to ask it to do, and that means being well-rounded and lifting.
I love that you brought that up, because I have a lot of people that I've had discussions with who have taken some time off of implementing any type of strength training or any type of movement, daily movement into their lives. And immediately when they come back, they go to running. And it's just like, okay, I'm going to start working out again and I'm going to start running. And always, 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 always end up injured. And I keep going back and I'm like, why do you do this thing? Like, why do you continuously, like, you take these long spots off, you come back, you just like run really hard, then you say your knee hurts, then you have to, take all the time off. I'm like, and he's like, well, that's just what I've always done. And I'm like,
How's that working for you?
how's that working for you? And the most important part of that is recognizing that your body is not the same body that it was 10 years ago. And it's carrying a different load now. It's got a different amount of muscle. And you have to work at balancing and preparing your body to be able to handle the stress, the strain that comes with impact of running. Like, you know what it prepares it for? It muscles. Like muscles that are surrounding all of your joints and have the ability to protect them from the stress that you're going to put on it. So like the question is, Rachel, is there going to be strength training in the running cycle?
Homegirl, we don't do anything that doesn't involve strength training, because strong muscles, strong bones, strong ligaments, and strong tissues are what is the foundation of a human that moves well. So if you can protect your skeletal system and you can, have everything be working in a way that doesn't limit mobility and allows you to take the impact of something like running, which, it's really important that people know, because running is like a singular leg exercise. It's actually done on one leg, which now you're thinking about like, okay, your body weight on one leg. But that's not even just
with an
it.
impact.
Yeah, with an impact. But that's not even just it, because actually the magnitude of that impact running up your leg actually creates 3 times what your body weight is. So your body weight times 3 on one leg. Now we can understand a little bit more why people suffer stress fractures or muscle or ligament tears or muscle strains when doing this. Because if you're going to be putting 3 times your body weight impact on a single leg for, let's say, you're going to run for an hour, that's a lot of strain. And it's only a matter of time doing that if you have not built up the systems around that, the muscles, the ligaments, the tissues, the bones. Like there's only a certain amount of time before that just becomes too much. And so that's why strength training, and that's why everything that you're ever going to see us do in TTSL is always going to have the backdrop of making sure that you have the strength to do the things that you love to do.
Mm. That your body is prepared to do all of the things that you love to do. That's a great way to put it too, because it's a great relation to strength training. Is just like, this is 3 times the weight on your body. This is what the impact is. So obviously we need to be able to prepare for that.
It's true. And the other thing, I think people can get behind the idea that strength training is going to protect them from injury better when it comes to running. I think that people can make the necessary connection there. Yeah, I'd be stronger, so I'd be less likely to get injured. I get that. But I don't think a lot of runners accept the fact that the strength training is actually going to improve their running. They
Mm-hmm.
think it's like a lot of prevention, but that couldn't be further from the truth. Why we're lifting to improve our running has a lot to do with like your running economy. So like this is the amount of oxygen or energy stores that your body is going to use to maintain a running pace. That's what they call like a running economy. So when athletes add resistance training, this is in the form of weight training, you're going to see an increased running economy for yourself up to 8%. So that is a ridiculous improvement when it comes to how long you can sustain a pace in your run. So a lot of runners like refer to like the wall when it comes to if they're in a race or they're running for time or whatever. They hit a wall where their pace is going to drastically fall off because they've used up pretty much all their running economy. But if you can improve that by 8%, that means your running is going to be less intense for that amount of time. Thank you, delivery man. I can't. Maybe don't ring the doorbell. You could just drop it there. I'll come out. Thank you. Amazon comes 900 times a day. So will they come during this podcast? Yes, because it's 900.
inevitable.
It's inevitable. How many times does Amazon come here a day? It's like, it's absurd. So basically you can maintain your pace at a lower relative intensity for you. And then essentially your times, your distances, it's all going to get better because it's easier to run at the pace that you want to run at for longer.
Mm-hmm. I mean, if that didn't sell you on it, I don't know what will. That doesn't sell you on some running, I honestly don't know what will. It's going to make it easier to run. like sign me up.
I mean, I've been looking for what makes it easier to run for years, but I think that I did not truly understand the benefits of running and strength training together until like I had run, for fun 5Ks like for a while before I strength trained, and I was always this shit runner, and I was like under the impression that it was genetics and that my legs were too short or something, and it wasn't until I started lifting, I started CrossFit, and I had not run for years. And there was like some opportunity to sign up for a 5K. It was like a charity thing, and a friend was doing it, and I wanted to participate and donate and whatever. And I was like, I haven't run a 5K in like years. Like I haven't run over 800 meters in like a long ass time. So
Yeah.
I'm going to die. And I was expecting to die. And I was like, I'll just run, walk it, like whatever. It's a charity thing. And I PR'd my 5K.
Mm. Mhm.
And it was at that point that I was like, holy shit, strong muscles run faster and further and better. And I'm not going to like crumble up in a ball being done with this. Like I could actually go and do something else with my day.
Mm. Mhm.
Um, so that's when like I personally was really convinced about how strength training affects running. But like also, you know, your aerobic capacity, like your VO2 max and stuff, it's like your maximal energy, your endurance, like all of this, every single study shows in mid distance, long distance, it doesn't matter. Strength training increases it all. So, like there was one study that came out that showed that long distance runners had, when they started resistance training, they had improvements from 2 to 5% in their overall running capacity. So it's like, if you think of it like this, if you run a 10K right now in 60 minutes, that's really great. You're a great runner. You're running like 10-minute miles less. That's awesome. If you improved that run by 3% just from adding lifting, you'd PR by 2 minutes in your next race, which is like, I mean, you tell runners they can PR by 2 minutes. They're like, sign me up. Will you want my firstborn? Like, I have to sell my soul to the devil. Like, that's a
Well, that's a
big
massive amount of
PR.
time. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And if you tell people to a 2-minute PR in a distance run like a 10K can be accomplished just by like 2 to 3 strength training sessions a week, I mean, that's huge. That's
Mhm.
really big. So, I just keep trying to convince them they gotta lift the weights.
They gotta lift the weights.
They gotta lift the weights.
I think when it comes to specifically runners or people who have done more endurance training and are, I don't want to say skeptical, but looking for some tips to start to add some weight training in there. Now, this is a running episode, so we're not going to just like make it all about weight training, but because we are going to give you the 5 best exercises for runners. But when it comes to some tips on how to weight train, everyone wants to know if we are doing low reps, high weight, if we're doing high weight. I mean, if we are doing low weight, high reps, like what are we doing? And what do you think is the best for runners to improve when it comes to reps to weight ratios?
That's a really good question, and I think definitely a misunderstood one. Runners are typically the kind of athletes that love endurance. They love the pull of the endurance, the hard thing for a long amount of time. It really speaks to them. And when
Mm.
they go to weight train, they try to put in
Try to
what they love.
try to do barbell cardio. Like they
It's
do
like,
barbell endurance. It's like
listen, I know you love that, but you're getting enough of that, right? So
Mhm.
like, you know, when runners typically come into the gym, they're like lightweights. They want to go for massive amounts of reps. They want their muscles to be like absolutely burning because they're used to having their lungs absolutely burning. And that's the kind of stimulus they seek. But you are already getting that kind of muscle endurance training in your running. And we want to add a little bit more. And the other thing is why I think runners go towards lightweight, low reps or sorry, lightweight high reps is because running has been traditionally something that has been told to us as like this is a way to lose weight, right? You
Yes.
want to tone. We're
Yeah.
gonna tone, and
Yeah.
how we do that is we're gonna run, we're gonna pound the pavement, and that's how you're gonna be like skinny and tone and whatever. So like that same messaging goes into little the 2-pound dumbbells for 7 million reps,
Yeah.
and it's like runners will constantly tell you, well, I don't want to get bulky.
I'm so glad you brought that up because that was what was like just repeating in my mind. with any of the runners that I've worked with, anyone who's run half marathons, marathons, just consider themselves a runner. They just run on a daily basis. The number one thing they come in and say is, well, I just don't want to get bulky. And I'm like, girl,
Girl. Girl.
please just trust me on this. It is way harder than you think it is to get bulky. And that's not what's going to happen here just overnight. And honestly, that is not something that you should ever be consciously avoiding.
Especially considering this is kind of like your accessory to your main sport, which is an endurance sport. Like that doesn't lend itself to bulkiness, right?
Yeah.
Like that just in general, you don't see bulky runners. And that isn't because they're not great runners. Like we're talking about Olympic level runners. Like obviously they are strength training.
Yes.
But that type of body doesn't lend itself to, you're not going to get bulky. Okay, you're not going to get no. I just can't say this enough. But you cannot just add endurance weightlifting to your already endurance schedule and think like you're going to make these massive gains in the percentages that I'm talking about. You got to lift heavy and for low reps. So what I would suggest to runners, even if it goes against like what you kind of like love in your heart about the endurance aspect of sport, aim for 6 to 10 reps. Okay, I'm not going to put you at like heavy doubles. I might sometimes.
Maybe.
But you want to aim for 6 to 10 reps and you want to be anywhere from like 65 to 85% of your 1 rep max. We are not lifting the 2-pound dumbbells for 900 reps. It is not going to give you the gains that I've promised. You've got to be willing to get heavy. And
on the days it's time to get heavy.
yes,
You
and
can
don't
get
worry, your
cardio.
endurance, your cardio is built in. That's in the thing you love.
Is you're going to get your endurance work when it's appropriate to get the endurance work. And you're going to get your lifting when it's appropriate to get your lifting work. And it just kind of is like that mindset switch between this is what we're working on right now, and any type of well-rounded programming should appropriately cover both aspects of lifting and endurance. I also want to talk about unilateral training because you talked about how the majority of your weight is coming down on one leg. And so that obviously lends itself to unilateral training being imperative to runners, I mean, to every person. But because we're always walking, like we're walking on one leg too. But it obviously is very important. So can you talk about unilateral training for a little bit and why we need to do it?
So, like we said earlier, we've got that like 3 times your body weight coming down on a single leg, right? So we need to prepare the legs individually. A lot of runners will come presenting muscle imbalances because they have a strong leg.
Yeah.
And the not strong leg.
I also want to say we did a whole episode on that, in the past. And if you notice some type of imbalance, it's not the end of the world. Every single person has an imbalance. And the best thing that we're looking to do is just decrease the drasticness of the imbalance between either body part. Like it could be your legs, it could be your arms. Like everyone just has a more dominant side that we are more likely to use. That's why we have dominant hands, legs. So it's not uncommon, it's not weird, it's not alarming that you have a muscle imbalance. So if you're working on unilateral training and you're doing something like step ups and you recognize that it's much harder on one side.
Hey, lefty.
As you're stepping
Come on,
up,
lefty.
and you start to call it like your bad leg. For me, I'm like, oh, I gotta do my bad leg. Like it is completely normal and okay, and just like don't freak out.
Don't freak out, and don't think it's like a problem that needs to be like solved. Like I have to be exactly the same amount
Symmetrical.
strong. Yeah, it's like that's impossible. There's no such thing as fully symmetrical when it comes to strength. But that's not really the goal,
Or
anyways.
anything.
The goal is to like you said, like lessen that gap so that the strong leg or the weak leg isn't creating these weird movement patterns. I say weird, but like what I mean is like imbalanced movement
Yep.
patterns that are going to like we said, this is a repetitive movement. So over time, it's going to be like if you're constantly not striding with the left and you are striding with the right, your hips are going to get
Mm.
out of alignment. And like then like it just
Can
it's
cause
all
pain and injury.
yeah,
Hmm.
it's definitely all gonna just work together. So we just want to like lessen that gap, and
Hmm.
then at the same time like work on our running technique. So doing single leg work in your training, we're going to give our 5 best accessory work exercises, and there's going to be some single leg work because it's really important, like you said, to close that gap. And it's also really important to work on strength training while you are on one leg, because there are so many stabilizing muscles that are going to come into play when you're on one leg that don't necessarily come in when you're on 2 legs. And also, you can't hide the bad leg, the bad leg. You
Hmm.
can't hide it when you're unilateral training, like you can, like, say, in a back squat, right?
Yeah. Yep. You can shift over to one side in a back squat, which we don't want to do, which honestly, this is my plug for recording your training sessions, especially if you train alone, because it's important to watch your body, not just somebody else's body, and all of the, videos and stuff that you watch for how to do something, but it's important to watch how your body moves, and you might pick up on some type of movement patterns that may just be specific to you that you can work on correcting, but only if you see it back. So the 5 best exercises for runners starts with number 1, back squats. We love back squats. Squatting is one of the most functional movements that you can do, but it is obviously so important for runners. Now, back squats are a full body movement, so I don't want to say this is just like quad hamstring dominant, because it really isn't. Your core plays a massive part in the ability to stabilize a bar on your shoulders, squat all the way down, and come back up. For anyone that is new with back squats, there is several things that you can do to assist when it comes to building up your back squat. And one of the things that I just have to call out when it comes to a squat is that you're starting at the top, breaking below parallel, and returning back to the top. Now, a lot of people, I've seen this especially with runners, because there is some lack of mobility when it comes to with like hip and ankles when it comes to squatting, just because it's not regularly used. When you're running, you're very upright. So if you find yourself without the ability to squat below parallel with good form, and that looks like you're coming onto your toes because you're in a runner's position all the time, the first thing you need to look at, you're not using the same shoes that you're running with, that you're back squatting with. Those are designed very differently. Running, you're looking at like heel to toe, you're looking at coming out onto your toes in order to strike and move forward, whereas like a back squat, we want you to sit back a little bit more. So we don't want you to be pushed onto your toes. So if you find yourself without the ability to squat below parallel, use a box, use some kind of an apparatus that you can sit back and reach to, and then return to a standing position. So you start to just work in the range of motion that you need to squat below parallel.
I can't love that enough. We have a whole episode on why squatting below parallel is the best thing you could possibly do for your knees, and why it puts so much unnecessary pressure on your knees if you are squatting heavyweight, like just to parallel or above it. But so have a listen to that. But definitely, absolutely, we must be squatting in 2 different shoes, and that then we're running in.
Mm.
Please do not squat in running shoes or trainer. You need to be squatting in lifting shoes. And so I'm really glad that you said that. And it's amazing the amount of runners I see that are so limited in their ankle mobility. It's
Mm.
crazy. It's like almost like if someone comes in and they're going to demonstrate their movements and I see limited ankle mobility, I'm like, are you a runner?
Yeah. Yeah.
So, we're also going to have in this cycle tons of mobility work specifically for ankles, because that is the limiting factor when it comes to your squats of like how you can be in a good position for so many people. So there's going to be tons of mobility work specifically ankle specific, or oh my god, how many times specifically ankle specific. Literally.
You're doing great, sweetie.
Oh my god. What was the other one that we always used to say that we thought was a word? No, we didn't think it was a word, but people from Massachusetts are not erroneous. That really is a word.
Neuronius. Oh no, I know what you're trying to say.
You know what I'm talking about. Damn it. It'll come to me.
It's on the top of my, it's on the tip of my
It'll
tongue.
come to me.
Irregardless.
Irregardless. You know what? Irregardless, literally, specifically. Okay? Come hang out with me. You'll
You'll expand your vocabulary.
Oh my god. Erroneous.
And next one is single leg RDLs. I am a person who loves a single leg work and RDLs, if we're being honest, because underdeveloped hamstrings are the cause of so many people's knee pain. So I just want to, I don't want to say like even isolate, but target hamstrings, glute activation should be a daily occurrence for you. You're sitting on your ass all the time. These are the muscles that you're literally squishing them 80% of your day, using them in a training session, targeting them specifically in a training session is incredibly important. And doing single leg work is obviously a big part of that.
A single leg RDL is a one leg Romanian deadlift. So like you're just going to stand on your one leg. You can use your body weight. You can use dumbbells. You can use a barbell. You can use a kettlebell. There's unlimited amounts of, ways that you can do this, but you're basically just going to be doing a Romanian deadlift on your one leg. And if you have never done them, expect the hamstrings to light up a little bit. And they're just awake. Hello. Good morning. Number 3 is box step ups. If you see a theme here, it's because we're training one leg. We're going to do a lot of box step ups in this upcoming cycle, both unweighted and weighted. I think that it's really, really important when we're training single leg work that we're both hinging and squatting.
Yeah.
And when it comes to step ups, there are just unlimited benefits to step ups. I can't even. They should be in honestly everyone's accessory work. It doesn't matter what modality or sport. Yeah, seriously. The sport does not matter. The modality doesn't matter. You should be just doing box step ups. The end.
I do want to give my 2 cents on what to look for when you're doing box step ups. I'm a person who has a weird hip shift if I'm not paying attention to it. So if you are doing box step ups and you see and you feel that on one side you're just like shifting over, don't get lazy with your step ups. This is the time that we are purposeful about our movement, because you're walking upstairs all the time where you are not purposeful about it. This is our time to practice those movements. So look at, your foot being completely on the box, your knee is driving slightly out. Don't let it cave in. It's the time that we really work on those hip flexors, when we work on kind of like using some of the muscles that tend to collapse a little bit. So work on pushing that knee out, not letting it come in, and like trying your best, stand fully up on the box. And try your best to keep your leg and your hips in the tracking in the correct way that isn't just like lazily shifting over to the side. And you really do that by activating your core.
Yeah, definitely. Don't overload yourself when it comes to box step ups. Like, be reasonable with your load, because the way that you are moving is far more important in this specific exercise than the weight that you're moving. 4 is Bulgarian split squats, the one everybody loves to hate. Guys, you have to love Bulgarian split squats. Like, they're so cry worthy. Like the tears they start in the corner of your eye. And like, if you're a person that loves pain, because you're already a runner, so let's be honest, you're kind of sick, you're gonna love Bulgarian split squats.
Mhm. I love to also hate Bulgarian split squats. They're such an isolated movement that um, you really feel them. You feel them deep in your soul. And there's
Ugh.
no way to really kind of get around that. But again, the single leg work, Bulgarian split squats are extremely important. And our last one is kettlebell swings. And some of you guys are going like, what? Why kettlebell swings? Kettlebell swings is one of the most functional movements that there is out there. Hinging is incredibly important to continuously practice. And I'm going to keep giving my like do these things correctly. When you're kettlebell swinging, your nipples want to be facing up. You never want your chest to drop so that your chest is like fully looking at the ground when you're kettlebell swinging. You want to roll those shoulders back, keep your chest up, and you want to be hinging at the hips. Kettlebell swings are not squats. You're not bending with your knees when the kettlebell is coming down. You're hinging at your hips while keeping your chest up and exploding from your hamstrings and your ass. Like you should be squeezing your butt at the top because that is actually where we're creating some power and some fast twitch muscles that tend to be underutilized.
Not only is the kettlebell swing an amazing, like just functional movement, but as far as running goes,
Yep.
what was just described to you is basically all the things you need for good, powerful running. Your hips are so important when it comes to your stride and the amount of power that you can generate from your stride. And kettlebell swings are just it, man. They are so, and like you said, we're not squatting. That is the difference, is we are hinging to create this hip explosion that we're later going to be able to call on in a long run when our stride is getting so small
Yes.
and we're like that's the time when you need the hip flexors and you're going to need to call on them, and if they have been trained properly, they will answer the call.
They will. They'll be ready to go. So hopefully these 5 tips are going to help you with your running technique. You're going to implement them if you're already a runner. If you are not already a runner, but you are jumping in the next TTSL cycle, these will be programmed for you. I have to say it because you're not going to say it, but I have to say that the most important part about utilizing some of these things for me is having a good programmer that is going to incorporate these things for you, because this is a little complicated. Movement patterns is a little complicated. You're already thinking about what you're going to do, how you're going to move within that session, not what you're going to do within that session. And if you haven't jumped in, and we keep saying TTSL. Hopefully, by the name of the podcast, you know what that means. There's so many acronyms here at CBG. We actually just talk in acronyms. But having a experienced programmer who is looking at this from a bird's eye view and is going to work in all of these things to help keep you healthy while you are getting purposeful movement in on a daily basis is so important. So if you want to jump in on our next cycle, hop right in. We can't wait to have you.
Yeah, it's starting Labor Day weekend. So come sign up. It starts September 4th if you want to get some running in that fall crisp weather. And we love you. We appreciate you. And all you need to bring to your workouts is your freaking self, your
Your freaking
motivation.
self.
Like, it's hard enough to get to a workout. Like,
Yeah.
just show up and have everything done for you so that you can be the most complete athlete you can. We
Yeah.
love you.